today we are going to prove and find, which is the same thing in this particular case, the derivative of cosine x, which is going to be negative sine x, but we want to prove that. We want to know that it's really true, right? So you can believe anything anybody says to you, but you don't know until you prove it yourself. So let's prove it, and we're going to prove it algebraically. We're not going to prove it geometrically. That's a very different and fairly complicated proof, actually. So the first thing I'm going to do before we start is I'm going to write down an identity and two rules that we need to remember here so that we can prove the derivative of cosine x. Now, the first one, if you remember correctly, and I'm sure that you do remember this from the beginning of calculus. If you're watching this, you're in calculus and you have been told this, but sometimes it's just easy to forget things. There's so many identities, there's so many rules. That the limit as h approaches 0 of sine h over h is 1. And the second one is that the limit as h approaches 0 of cosine h minus 1 over h is 0. And we're going to use these to prove the derivative of cosine x. Now, the second thing that we need to remember is the trig sum identity of cosine a plus b, actually. And let's just write that down right here. Cosine a plus b is cosine a times cosine b minus sine a times sine b. That is going to be very important. You will see in just a moment why. Okay. All right, so now we have that. We're all set up for success. Let's try to get the derivative. Well, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to plug cosine x into the differentiation formula. So we're gonna take the derivative of cosine x. Let me just write this down for completion. Okay, we're going to plug it into the differentiation formula. So that means we're going to plug it into limit as h approaches 0 of cosine x plus h of cosine x plus h, which is where our identity is going to come into play, minus cosine x all over h. Well, without the identity, we don't really have any place to go here. But with that identity that we have down here, we can rewrite cosine x plus h. So now we have limit as h approaches 0 of cosine x times cosine h minus sine x times sine h, times, not plus, times sine h. And all of that belongs together, minus cosine x all over h. Okay, well now we can start to rewrite stuff, right? Because what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get this, and we're going to try to get this. We're going to try to rearrange it so we can find these, so that we can eliminate things, and so that we can find our negative sine x. Well, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to factor out. We are going to factor out cosine x right here. Limit h approaches 0. Okay, so cosine x, we're going to factor out cosine h minus 1. Because right here, we're multiplying minus 1 by cosine x, right here. And right here, we're multiplying cosine h by x. So we can pull that out. It's going to be over h. And then we still have this left, right? We still have this entire thing right here left. Well, what do we do with that? We're going to not factor anything out, but we're going to remember. Actually, you know what? For this step, I'm just going to leave it the way that it is. But we're going to remember that this is 1 times h, and this is sine x times sine h. Actually, let's get rid of that negative. There aren't two negatives there. There's only one negative there. It's already in the front. Okay, so now what? Now what? Now we have got, you can tell we've got our one simplification here. That's going to become 1. And we've got our other simplification here. That's going to become 0. I'm going to write down the extra step in between for clarity, but you can already see where this is going to go. This is going to become cosine x over 1 times cosine h minus 1. And this is cosine of h, not cosine times h, over h. That's 1. That is 1 block. Minus sine x over 1 times sine h over h. Well, now we have exactly what we were looking for. This right here is going to become 0. And this right here is going to become 1. So our final solution is going to be d by dx of cosine x is going to be cosine x times 0 minus sine x times 1. And that just equals negative sine x. So we have proved that the derivative of cosine x is negative sine x.